Hey guys, welcome into Fantasy Football Academy 2020. I am the Dean, as always, your host, and we got a little different background today. Like many of us who have kids, parts of our home have been turned into a makeshift school. So studio that I usually do this in is right now being taken up with geometry. So yeah, welcome to 2020 school year. So guys, look. Last night was a crazy game. Nobody saw this coming. It was 30-35. Everybody that I listened to was talking about how it's going to be 21-17, 21-24. Vegas had this as a low-scoring game. So if you are a avid bettor or a degenerate gambler, and you had money on this game and you bet the over, congratulations, you cleaned up. So what are we talking about today besides the fact that my pick or one of my picks for start of the week, Joe Burrow, came through big, yes, in a losing effort, but this is fantasy and we don't care about the reality win-loss. All we care about are the stats that they put up. Now, how do they get those stats? Environment, guys. Look, I've been talking tirelessly about environmental drafting during the draft season, about environmental roster management here in the regular season. So what we're going to go over today is we're going over environmental roster management and how to properly work your lineup. Look, it's early in the season. Some of you are facing questions that you may not have had before that you didn't even know that you had. I asked my wife last night, what are some struggles as a new fantasy owner that you have setting your lineup? And she's like, I don't have any, but I don't know if it's that I don't have any or the fact that I just don't know that I have any. And that's the problem that a lot of new fantasy owners face, is that they don't know what they don't know. So that's what we're here today to do. We're here to take you through. We're going to look at working the waiver wire. We're going to look at how to effectively set your lineup. Now, there is a right way and a wrong way to do this for optimal results, okay? Trades. How do you know who to get, who you want? If you have to, sell a trade, is that a good thing? If you have to talk up the player that you're wanting to get rid of, is that really a good thing to do? Focusing on short or long term, what should I do? When should I do it? And something that you're going to hear through some other shows, you might hear this buy low, sell high phrase being thrown out there. So that being said, let's get into this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to show you some examples of what to do and what not to do. Nick, I'm coming for you. So I already told Mr. Nick, who's in our league of record, that he was going to be on today's broadcast. So here we go. Before we dive into it real quick, I do want to thank my sponsors. I want to thank Zia of Lafayette. It was an absolutely wonderful draft party. Love the food. We had some mini tacos. We had some fried avocado. Look, if you don't know about fried avocado slices, you need to learn because they were awesome. We had some cheese curds. We had some goodies from Keller's Bakery, so I'd like to thank them. In Youngsville, they're off the Youngsville Highway, 627 Lafayette Street. You can find them on Facebook too. If you're in the Lafayette area and you need some goodies, you need some sweets, or you just got that sweet tooth you need to satisfy, go down, check them out. They're at 627 Lafayette Street off the Youngsville Highway, and you can find them on Facebook at Keller's Bakery, and you can also order through Facebook as well. So, and if you go down there and you get something, you tell them that the Dean sent you, you get your 2 free cookies, so you can get a little something on the way home. And wife wants you to pick up a dozen donuts. Go ahead and pick up the donuts and get yourself a couple of cookies. You ain't got to tell them nothing. So, all right, guys. So here we go. We're going to get into proper roster management. First of all, set your lineup. I can't stress this enough. make sure that your lineup is set completely and that it's set up in time. If there's a Thursday game like there was last night, and you had any Cleveland Cleveland player, any Cincinnati player, basically anybody from Ohio's teams, you needed to start them because they were just going off. It was a crazy offensive display last night, and like I said, nobody saw this coming. I did recommend Joe Burrow, and I did mention that Nick Chubb was going to be coming back. Last week, as you see here, he only scored 5.6 points for Nick's team. Now, this is Nick. His team name is New Car Smell. This is the thing about naming your teams for fantasy. You can get kind of creative, as we see. He's going against the COVID-19ers. And when we go down to my league, we'll show you the names of everyone and their team names. We'll go over a little bit. But last week, this was his lineup. Now, I can't fault him too much because he had Joe Burrow. It was in his first game, so you're not going to start Burrow against the Chargers week 1, okay? He drafted Le'Veon Bell to start him. He drafted Nick Chubb to start him. Adam Thielen carried him along with Mark Andrews. So this was a very single wide receiver carry here. And even though we see down here that Joe Burrow actually performed better than Jared Goff, the smart money was, yes, to start Jared Goff against Dallas as opposed to Joe Burrow against the Chargers. So I can't fault him too much for that one. Here's where it kind of gets a little shameful, let's say. We're going to scroll down here and see that the Chiefs team, he didn't start them. They're on his bench. So he lucked out and just happened to face the worst team for that week, and he happened to pull out a win. Now, will that happen all the time? No, of course not. Does it happen from time to time? Yes. But you got to make sure that that if your team is playing on a Thursday, and as we get later into the season, there's going to be some Saturday games. So you're going to need to make sure that, number one, you're checking Wednesday night. You're checking all of the injury reports coming out of camp, coming out of the practices for the teams that you have a piece of. So you know that they're either going to start or if they're going to sit. So if they're going to sit, and he had a lot of question marks going into week 2, and I had to speak with him about that, trying to be a good commissioner. I'm giving these guys kind of a 2 to 3 week grace period to kind of get it together, and then I'm just going to go hands off, and it is what it is. But they're going to need to tune in on a more regular basis if they want to find out what I'm thinking. So like you guys are doing. So I appreciate you. Down the bottom, subscribe, like, and share. If you're new to the broadcast, welcome. This is a very informal channel. Year 1, just getting started, so you're not going to see a whole lot of glitz and editing and things like that. That's going to be for next year. So hopefully I'll be spending the off season fine-tuning and editing and putting in all the bells and whistles. But for right now, we're just raw fantasy football advice from a 25-year fantasy vet, just for you guys. Look, I'm just like you guys. You guys are just like me. I'm playing with guys that I work with. They know me. I know them. I'm going to show you my listener league for a local radio station of 103.7 The Game here in Lafayette. So those guys, I don't know them. They don't know me. I haven't drafted with them before. So the fact that I scored 190 points on them, that might say a little something about the knowledge that I possess and that I'm trying to pass along. So, but we're going to go up here. See, he's got Justin Tucker as his kicker, and thankfully he's only carrying one kicker. I've seen a couple of guys that carry two. Please don't. Please, you're wasting a roster spot. Just so you guys know that in our league of record, which is on NFL Fantasy, it is the Academy Grads 2020 to go with Fantasy Football Academy, because if you're in an academy, you want to graduate, you want to become a graduate of the academy and get your diploma at the end of the year. So we're going to see who winds up with the dunce cap and who winds up with their diploma. So here's the issue that he had going into week 2, and these are things that I told him that he needs to change his name to Snake Bite instead of New Car Smell. Excuse me, because right now he's not smelling like a new car. He's smelling like an old jalopy. He's been sitting at the junkyard for a while. Now, this past week, he did really, really, really good last night. You see he has Nick Chubb, he has Odell, and he also put in Joe Burrow for week 2. But here's the issue that he had going into week 2. Le'Veon Bell is on IR. He had him in his lineup. He had Marlon Mack up there as well. So you see Marlon Mack here. Now, Marlon Mack is out for the year. So he needs to, from this standpoint right now, he need to drop him. Now, we have, in our league of record, we have 3 spots for reserve players. So you have the ability to take an IR person who's only on IR, and the rules are a little different this year. If you go on IR, you only have to go on for 3 weeks. It's not like a PUP list, which is physically unable to perform, where you're out like 6 weeks. So if you're missing time, and whether it be for COVID, whether it be for an injury, whatever it is for either one, you're in there for 3 weeks. So he's going to be missing Le'Veon Bell for a minimum of 3 weeks. Now, he needs to be off of his roster onto his reserve, his IR spot on his fantasy team. Just like real football, fantasy football does have an IR spot. Some leagues only give 1, some are giving 3. Because of COVID, a lot of platforms will let you have more than what they normally have had in the past. So Le'Veon Bell needs to be on IR. Now, you might ask, well, why can't he just put him on his bench? Here's the thing. You're only allowed a certain number of players. Well, if you have a guy who's on injured reserve, can't use them. So why not go out and get someone who you can use in his spot? You can plug in here and there. Maybe he's got a really good matchup coming up in the next couple of weeks, and you want to take advantage of that. So if you go ahead and do your research and you look at the schedule, maybe they're facing Jacksonville, maybe they're facing the Giants, maybe it's a running back and they're facing really bad rushing defenses. If that's the case, go out, get that player, plug him into your lineup, and you still got a guy who you drafted to be a starter available to you once he gets healthy. Okay? So we would take Le'Veon Bell right here, and we would put him on the injury reserve. Then we could go to players and look up who's available. Now, what I'm going to do right now, I'm on week 1 for him. And here in a second, I'm going to switch over to week 2 and show you the changes that he made for his lineup. Now, the issue that Nick had was that, as I said, Le'Veon Bell's on IR. At the time, James Conner was questionable. Duke Johnson was questionable. Marlon Mack, as I said, was out for the year, and Golden Tate was questionable. So you're talking 5 players that are basically unavailable to him. So if that's the case, then you need to make adjustments for that. So you're gonna want to go out there and you're gonna want to get some help in the running back position. So let's go over right here, and we're gonna go to week 2, and we're gonna show you the changes that Nick made after we chatted. So we chatted a little bit, and he went out and picked up Peyton Barber going against Arizona. We see that he still kept Nick Chubb in, which was a good thing. 124 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 reception for 9 yards, giving him a total of 27.3 points. Now look, this is an absolutely great stat line, and we see Joe Burrow, even in a losing effort, 316 yards, 3 touchdowns, giving him 30 points. Look, I don't care if he loses, but that's a great stat line. Okay? So you loving the stat line. And if you look down and see Odell had 4 receptions, 74 yards, and a TD. Beautiful TD, by the way, is 43 yards. Now, here's the thing, is that people are going to get all excited about Odell. They're going to get all hype and go, oh, he's back. If you take that 1 reception away, that's 43 points. So that leaves him with a stat line of 31 yards and no touchdowns. Now, is that a great stat line? Not really. You want to kind of see a little more usage of Odell. And let's see, we're going to look. Let's see. I don't think he didn't have Jarvis as well. But if you look at this game, and we talk about game script, talk about game scripting, I'm going to switch you over real quick and show you the stat line that Kareem Hunt had. Kareem Hunt, 86 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 receiving touchdown. Okay, so he was being used in the passing game as well as the run game. Now, given it wasn't until about halfway through the 3rd quarter, but he still ended up with a good chunk of change for your fantasy team. You see that his projected was 13 points, but his actual was 24. That's more than Odell. Now, I've talked about negative and positive game scripting before. This is an example of a positive game script where they had a lead, they're relying on the run to kill the clock, to control the ball, to not give the ball back to Cincinnati so that they could go score. They were protecting the lead, so they relied on the run game. They weren't going to be passing a whole lot. That was obvious. Okay. So I think we have a pretty good example of what to do and what not to do and how to correct mistakes that we've made before. I seriously doubt that this week that Nick will be scoring 102 points. Okay. So Chris, you see this, he's coming for you. Okay. Yes, I like to stir stuff up. So let's look at the game center real quick, and we're going to show you who Nick is going up against this week. So we scroll down here, and we see he's up against my boy Chris, C's Cowboys. Now, last week, Chris had Drew Brees as his starting quarterback. This year, after the week 1 performance from Aaron Rodgers against Minnesota, he sees that they have Detroit. So Detroit will be the proud recipient of a Rodgers butt kicking and the next victim of the Scorched Earth tour. We see Joe Burrow's line again. Like I said, he did have the 1 fumble, and oh yeah, that was I'm thinking Mayfield that threw the interception. That was a bad interception if you guys saw that one. So 19 yards rushing, so you got a few on the ground, but that stat line, even if Rodgers puts up 40, 30 from Joe Burrow is absolutely phenomenal. He's going to be looking for another big day. Nick is from Adam Thielen. He's got Hollywood Brown in against Houston, along with Mark Andrews. I can't be mad at him for that startup, but he is relying very heavily on the Baltimore team, the Baltimore Ravens, because he's got the kicker, the tight end, and the receivers. So come on, Lamar, because I got Lamar. So, and that's the other thing I wanted to talk about is that if you have, let's say that I was going up against Nick this week, any points that Mark Andrews or Marquise or Hollywood Brown get, I would go ahead and get as well. So unless they're going to hand the ball off to Andrews or Hollywood, I'm pretty much covered if I'm facing him. And that's things that you have to watch out for. Let's say that you had you're Chris and you have Breeze and Rodgers. If you're facing someone who has, let's say, Emmanuel Sanders, because unfortunately Michael Thomas is gone for a couple of weeks, he's doubtful. That's off my boy Dusty's team from Keller's Bakery. Once again, check him out on Facebook, guys. Keller's Bakery off the Youngsville Highway, 627 Lafayette Street. But yeah, my boy Dusty has Michael Thomas, so my condolences. But let's say that I was playing Dusty with a healthy Michael Thomas. I know that Breeze is going to Michael Thomas. Defenses know that it's going to Michael Thomas. They just can't stop it. So I would go ahead and Breeze, I could start him if I want to cancel out Michael Thomas. Now, here's the thing. If the Saints have a really tough matchup, let's say that they're playing somebody like San Francisco or they're playing somebody like Baltimore. So if they're playing somebody like that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Rodgers' matchup. And if Rodgers is playing somebody like he is this week, if he's playing somebody like Detroit, or if he's playing the Jets, or if he's playing, somebody with a really weak pass defense, I'm going to start Aaron Rodgers and bank on him scoring more points and Breeze having so many targets in New Orleans that Michael Thomas isn't going to put up that many points that week. Is it a gamble? Yes, but it's also a gamble that if I put Breeze in and it turns into a run game and it's scripted to run, or if Breeze gets pulled out, which he's inclined to do, and pull him out and put in Taysom Hill, or if something happens and Winston winds up in there, I'm not going to be getting the points from Michael Thomas anyway because my guy isn't throwing it to him. So I'm going to go ahead and keep Aaron Rodgers in because I know that it's going to be more beneficial to have Rodgers than it will be to have Breeze. So we see that Nick went ahead and he went out and got Barber. We're going to look at the waiver wire real quick and how to work the waiver wire. So we look here and we know that Baker Mayfield is going to be first up here. He had 408 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 31.12 points. You might be asking, hey, he threw for almost 100 yards more than Joe Burrow and the same amount of touchdowns. Why didn't he have more points? Well, here's the thing. Right here, these 2 INTs, 4 points gone. So he should have 35 points and be a better play than Joe Burrow. But he threw the INTs. Now, we'll tell you right now that before this game happened, Mitch Trubisky was the number 1 ranked free agent. So if you were Nick and you were coming here and you looked at the running backs and you saw who was going on, now Giovanni Bernard kind of threw a wrench in a couple people's game with Joe Mixon. Look, I told you guys at the beginning of the season Joe Mixon was going to see some stacked boxes and they were going to make Joe Burrow prove that he could beat him. He's yet to beat anyone, even though he performed very well last night. This still is a Joe Mixon, a Giovanni Bernard driven, backfield driven, running back driven team until Joe Burrow can win a game. Has he shown that he can find his receivers, that he can score a lot of points? Yes. But has he been able to win? If you guys saw the pressure that he was under last night, yes, he kept his head, but he did fumble right at the goal line. He took a couple of sacks that he probably should have thrown away. So he's still making those rookie mistakes. And those are all growing pains that you have with a rookie quarterback. So if we're looking down here, we see Benny Snell. Now, I put in a waiver request in my other league for Benny Snell because I don't know how bad James Conner's injury is or how lingering it's going to be. Not that I need help in the running back department, but I don't want anyone else to snag him before I do. In this league, I also took MVS, Marquise Valdes-Scantling from Green Bay. He was the receiver that I picked up this week. So went ahead and dropped Jalen Reagor. Until Reagor can prove that he's going to be something, then I'm letting him go. And here's the thing that you have to think about is when you're working the waiver wire and you're looking at the matchups, if you want to go ahead and take someone, you need to figure out two things. One, are they going to be a weekly, just a weekly filler? Are you just using them for that week or the next couple of weeks? So if you're going to be, let's say that you need running back help and Adrian Peterson is the guy that you want to target because you know that he is going to be in a starting role, okay? Now, his bye week is week 5, and we're in week 2. So if I'm going to be looking at this and I'm going to see that his bye week is week 5, if my guy is back by week 4 or he's supposed to be back at week 5, great. And we look down here at his schedule coming up. He's got Green Bay, Arizona, and New Orleans. So if I'm looking at that, I'm probably not going to be able to use him in week 4 because he's got New Orleans and they've got a really good defense. So I'm not going to say that I'm going to be able to use him week 4. So I'm just trying to look and use him for 2 weeks. Now, he does get Jacksonville and Atlanta in week 6 and 7. So if I want to stash him and just use him for the matchup, then I can go ahead and need to make sure that I can do that and not have to worry about dropping anyone of significance off of my team. So a couple of things you need, like I said, you need to think about. Make sure that when you're working the waiver wire, that don't necessarily take the guy who's at the top, because we see down here, we go down, James Robinson. Robinson has become the Jacksonville starting running back. So he's somebody that you might want to target, you might want to look at if you were in desperate need of running back help. Look down here and we're going to see he's got Tennessee coming up this week, which I wouldn't be able to use him then, but he's got Miami, Cincinnati, and Houston coming up. So that bodes really well because we just saw Cincinnati get run over by Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And I'm not saying that Jacksonville is going to run anyone over this year, but having success from one team can translate to another. Houston, we saw Houston get carved up by a rookie in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I'm not going to put Robinson on that level, but again, success from one player can translate to another. And then we see that he's got Miami. It's Miami. It's basically like it's the Browns or it's the Jets, okay? You can run on them. You can throw on them. They're not that good. They tanked all last year. They're in rebuild mode. So they're just kind of grooming Tua and letting him learn under Fitzpatrick until such time that they decide to make that switch. Then we also see he's got Detroit coming up in week 6. So this right here could be a really good matchup for anybody who needs some running back help. He could be one of those stashes. And there's really no one of significance down the list. You see Boston Scott, you see Tony Pollard. Look, Pollard's only valuable if Zeke gets hurt. Okay, if Zeke gets hurt, then yes, Tony Pollard's there. But there's no indication. But as soon as he gets dinged up, if you have a roster spot to fill and you're comfortable with your starting lineup, you're comfortable with what backups you have, and you have that one spot like Nick does, Nick can go ahead and take Le'Veon, put him on IR, bring in Tony Pollard, stash him, and see what happens. So that's what they call a handcuff. Tony Pollard is a handcuff to Zeke Elliott. Okay, so that's the waiver wire right there. And like I said, that's implementing the environmental targeting practice where you look at who they're playing. Don't necessarily look at their stats off the bat because it's only week 2 we're coming into. We only have any kind of proof from week 1. But looking at week 1, Adrian Peterson, we see the usage that he's getting. You see the environment that's around him and the confidence that the coaching staff is having in him. Okay. Now, how to effectively set your lineup. We're going to go back to my other league to show you this because this is something that not a lot of people think about. I had a Thursday night game with Kareem Hunt. Now you might be thinking, oh well, Kareem Hunt's a flex option. Yes, he is, but because he's playing Thursday night, I need to lock him in. If I were to lock him in down here in this flex position, that takes away my flex. Then I'm forced to pivot. If I have to pivot, I have to pivot from a running back or a wide receiver. But what happens if my 2 wide receivers, I got Adams and Jones. I'm not putting either one of those guys on the bench. But if I come down here and I see my bench, okay, if I wanted to put in David Johnson against Baltimore, which I don't, but if I wanted to put in David Montgomery, who's supposed to be coming back, well, he's already back, but he's supposed to be using a bigger role this week against the Giants, who are absolutely horrible on defense. If I want to plug him in with instead of Marvin Jones, who is a receiver, I can bench him because I'm not going to replace Mostert. Mostert was absolutely just ran all over the place last week, plus the fact that he's playing the Jets. So I'm perfectly happy with that lineup. So if I were to put him in my lineup, I could use that flex position to go with either one. So I'll look at Jones playing Green Bay versus David Montgomery playing the Giants. So even though Jones is supposed to get more points, I'll look at Montgomery and think, okay, it's against the Giants. He might actually do better. But I have to I'm waiting until Friday to make that decision, or actually I'm waiting until Saturday to make that decision because we don't know what's going on with Kenny Golladay. Why does that matter? If Kenny Golladay is going to be back, that's going to take some pressure off of Marvin Jones. They're going up against Green Bay. Detroit has a horrible defense. what did I tell you guys about horrible defenses? Horrible defenses make the quarterback and the receivers for that team extremely valuable. Why? Because they're going to be in, remember, a negative game script. So if they're in a negative game script, that means they're playing from behind. They're going to have to throw the ball to stay in the game. So who better to have than a receiver? Remember, this is a 1-point PPR league. So for every time they touch the ball, I get a point, plus I get the yardage. If they happen to fall into the end zone, boom, I get that too. So now, that is when do you flex someone? That is when you flex someone. You want to flex when, if somebody has a Thursday night game, you plug them into the solid lineup. If they have a Monday night game, then you're going to flex them. So if somebody gets hurt, if somebody's out, then you can go ahead and pivot there so that person isn't locked in. So remember, if it's a Thursday night game, make sure that you put your running back in your running back position and your receiver in your receiver position. If it's a Monday night game, you want whoever's on Monday night to be in your flex. Okay, that gives you the flexibility of switching that player out if something tragic happens. Okay, because remember, these guys, if they're on Thursday night, they don't have any more practices. But if they're playing during the week, then they have one more practice on Friday. Something weird could happen. They pull something, they get hurt, then you got to switch them out. Okay, so do yourself a favor. Flex your Monday night players. Lock in all your players for Thursday night into their position. So receiver into receivers, running backs to running backs if they're playing on Thursday. If they're playing on Monday, in the flex position. Okay. Now, when do you release someone? We talked about working the waiver wire. Let's go back here. And we'll use my team. So when would I release someone? No, first of all, anybody that you take first, second, third round, even fourth round, you are not going to just release them unless they get hurt. If they are out for the year, like Marlon Mack was with Nick, then you're going to be able to, release them. Now, I'm going to go back to my transactions and show you what I did. So, I released Matthew Stafford even though I drafted him. Why? Because I went and picked up Ben Roethlisberger. So, Roethlisberger, better quarterback, better situation, better environment. Okay? Even though Stafford is with a bad defense, he's got a couple of good receivers, the better quarterback play is coming out of Ben. Okay? I don't fear anyone taking Stafford, but I got Lamar Jackson. So I can kind of play around with my backup QB. Normally I'll stream a guy, but Big Ben was just playing too good. I don't want anyone else to have him, so I went ahead and snagged him. I told you guys Marquise Valdez-Scantling, MVS for short. I picked him up and I dropped Jalen Reagor. Why did I drop Jalen Reagor? Even though he's like, Dean, Philly's like decimated with receivers and this, that. Did you see week 1? Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz. Those are the receivers. Okay? Deshaun Jackson. If you want to pick up Jackson, fine, until people come back where he gets hurt, because one or the other is going to happen. So until Reagor can prove that he is going to be any kind of production, I'm going to go with MVS. I'm going to go with the better quarterback play here. And I believe that's all of the, that's all the acquisitions that I made. So I just made the 2 acquisitions for week 1. There's some, I'm going to look at, actually, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's go to the league. And we can look at, look at my boy Dusty's team real quick. Fighting Infernates. Hide the chart. Now, Luke was the Alpha Chads and Dusty is the Fighting Infernates. We go down here. We see that he had Joe Mixon. Now, Joe Mixon scored him 12.6 points. Had 46 yards rushing, 40 receiving. Like I said during draft season, I told you guys that he was going to see stacked boxes. Okay? So he hasn't performed. I'm not saying drop Joe Mixon, but you might want to look at trading him. And this is going to lead me into my next thing, trades. How do you get who you want? If I'm going to trade for Joe Mixon, this is what you call buying low, selling high. This is a buy low for Joe Mixon. If you have someone on your squad that you look at their remaining schedule or their upcoming schedule, and you see that they have really tough matchups, and let's go ahead and stop this and we'll talk real quick, guys. If you see that their matchups are really hard, then you're going to want to go to someone in your league who maybe they have somebody who's underperforming, like Joe Mixon, offer them someone who's been performing but has a hard schedule coming up. Now, it's up to whoever you're going to do the research and look at what they have on their squad. That's not your job. You're trying to unload Joe Mixon, or you're trying to get Joe Mixon, and you're trying to unload someone else. Let's say that you're trying to unload Kenyon Drake, okay? Drake has a good upside, so does Joe Mixon. It could be a good trade, but Drake is sitting in the NFC West. He's got a lot of targets on the team. You see that Joe Burrow was playing well, so it's going to start taking the pressure off of Joe Mixon. Go to your trade partner, be like, hey, trade you Drake for Mixon. They might go for it. What you don't do, don't sell the player that you're trying to get. Okay, or that you're trying to give up, I'm sorry. Don't go to your trade partner and go, hey man, Joe Mixon gonna blow up. He's gonna be big. Well, then they're gonna think, well, why are you wanting? Well, I'm sorry, scratch that. You're gonna go to your trade partner and go, hey, you want Drake? Give me Joe Mixon. You can have him. He's on a better team. They're not facing stacked boxes. He's he's used more in the passing game. He's got a better quarterback. If you start selling it, then your trade partner is going to go, well, why do you want to give up Drake anyway and get Mixon, who's not doing that much? No, I'm good. You go to him and go, hey, look, I just really love Joe Mixon. I really like seeing him on my team. How about it? So let's say that same scenario plays. Let's say that you really want Kareem Hunt. Some guys is stashing Chubb and Hunt. Okay. You go to them, you really want Nick Chubb. You really want Kareem Hunt. You go to him and go, hey, how much you want for Nick Chubb? And you're like, oh man, no, Nick Chubb. Hey, look, I gave you two. I gave you 2 players. Take a look at my squad, see what you want. 2 players. Who you willing to give up? You throw out a couple of names. You thinks about it and goes, nah, I'm good. You go, all right, well, you won't give up Chubb. How about Hunt? Like, I got Chubb. Get somebody else to take Hunt's place. Yeah, I'll do it. See, you shoot high, shoot above what you're looking for so you can actually get what you want. Okay? Little trick. Now, here's the thing about trades. You have to focus on the long term. Okay? You're making this trade, you're giving up somebody. And this is why trades don't happen a lot in fantasy football, because you always have that nagging feeling like if you give up a guy, then he's going to burn you later when you play him again. So, things to look for. If a guy is really performing well and he has a history of falling off, when he's at a peak, get everything you can for him. Then you can get rid of him. Last year, I got rid of Chris Carson. You're like, you crazy. What happened to Chris Carson last year? About mid-season, he started to get fumbleitis. So he got fumbleitis. He's got in Pete Carroll's doghouse. He got yanked. His snaps started getting pulled. So he wasn't performing as well. Who did I get? Melvin Gordon. I had Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. And I don't recommend starting same quarterback or two running backs from the same team in the same backfield, okay? I don't recommend that. Last year it worked out because of how the team worked. Melvin Gordon was a workhorse, and they used Austin Eckler in the passing game quite a lot. So, things to look for. We're going to recap real quick. Working the waiver wire. What do we look for? We use environmental targeting. We look at who they are, who they're playing, okay, and whether we're going to be using them as just a filler for a week or two until our guy gets off of injury reserve or until our guy starts performing, or are they a long-term replacement? If they're a long-term replacement, you have to look long-term. You have to look at their schedule. You have to look at how they're being used before you go ahead and pick them up. Effectively setting your lineup. Remember, if they're playing Thursday night, plug a receiver into a receiver position, a running back into a running back position. And if they're playing on Monday night, or if you have a Sunday night player and no Monday night, then you're going to flex Sunday night or Monday night. Okay, guys? Trades. How do you get who you want? Overshoot. Reach for someone that you know he isn't going to trade. Ask him. You soften him up to the acceptance of a player that you actually can use, that you actually know that he can release and not think twice about it. And don't oversell the player you're trying to get rid of. Okay, that's a dead giveaway that somebody, and if somebody comes to you and like, hey man, I'll give you this guy and you give me so-and-so. Man, he's really good. He's got a really soft schedule coming up. Well, if he's got such soft schedule and he's doing so good and he's such a good guy, then why do you want to get rid of him? Something's going on. If you want to go ahead and release that player, ask for more. What's the worst you can say? No, and then you're right back with the team that you already had. So you need to focus on the long term in a trade, and you need to buy low, sell high when you're doing trades, okay? How do you release? How do you know who to release? Look at the schedule. And remember, guys, trust your gut, okay? If you've got any questions, down the bottom, leave me a comment. Look for me on Twitter at FantasyDean20. Guys, good luck week 2. If you had anybody from the state of Ohio playing, maybe with the exception of Joe Mixon, good job. So, looking forward to seeing you guys later. Remember, check the injury report for Friday, okay? Make sure that you're keeping up on that. Make sure that you're locking in those lineups, and make sure that all your slots are filled. Guys, have a good Sunday. Have an awesome Monday night. We will see you back here on Tuesday to wrap up the week that was, look ahead to the week that's coming, and see how we all did coming up week 2. Are you going to be 0-1? I'm sorry, you're going to be 0-2? You're going to be 1-1? Or are you going to be 2-0? Hopefully, guys, if you're undefeated, you stay that way. If you suffered a loss, make up for it. And God, please, don't go 0-2. Take it easy, guys. We'll see you next time on Fantasy Football Academy 2020.